Good afternoon. I wanted to take a few minutes to go over a few things with you. I had some questions today about how many articles needed to be in the literature review. So I've pulled up the final project guidelines, and you'll notice down here at the bottom it says for the literature review you're to find 2 journal articles related to your selected topic area. So, and it says textbook, Wikipedia, other sources are not accepted. This includes Psychology Today. This includes outside websites such as like the CDC, books. If you're using any of those type of sources, those are not included in when I grade the rough draft and the final paper and have to count up your peer-reviewed or scholarly sources. So they can be used to support what you're writing, but just know that they won't be included in the minimum requirement. So for this assignment, you're going to I leave this up to my students. I'm not sure how the other instructors do it, but it says 2 journal articles. So you've already found 2 sources for your bibliography, and you need to find 2 journal articles for the literature review. Now, let me pull up the rough draft. This says you need to incorporate more than 2 scholarly resources for exemplary credit. So if you use the same articles for your bibliography and your literature review, you are only going to have 2 resources total, right? 2 scholarly resources. And you're automatically going to lose 15% on that element. So it's my recommendation when you write your literature review that you find at least 1 new article, and then you can use 1 from your bibliography, or you can choose another new article. So I'm leaving that up to you as long as you submit 2 literature reviews. It can be 2 new ones or 1 old and 1 new. So that's your choice. But just know that the requirement is that you have 2 for the assignment, 3 at least for the final paper. Okay, so we've gone into that. And now for the literature review itself, there are some questions that have to be answered. Those are on the literature review guidelines and rubric. Don't write this in a question answer format. This is a literature review, so it should flow well. You should write it as an essay where you answer these questions. So I'm going to pull up the example literature review that's on the general questions board. And this student has written it, properly. It flows, it answers the questions, it hits all of the main topics and elements of the rubric. And you can find that on the general questions board. The other option that you have is to actually write the body of your paper. Sorry, I've said before I use my husband's Mac when I have to do videos because mine doesn't record and I don't know how to use it very well. When you write your literature review, if you want to just go ahead and start writing it as your rough draft, as long as you answer all of those elements, just send me a note with your assignment when you turn it in. Hey, Professor Chikoff, I'm writing this, as a rough draft so that I know how to, so I can know how to make comments, because I'll grade it with the rubric. So you actually, you have to hit all the elements of the rubric, but it will actually give you comments of, oh, hey, you need to focus more on this, or you need to do this differently. But this rough draft, or this is actually the final paper. It's also in the general questions board, but you'll notice they start with the thesis statement, and we'll go over that in just a minute. Move into the introduction and body of the paper here. Boom, boom, boom. All of these scholarly support. She's analyzing what was done in her articles right here in the body of her paper, which the paper goes on from introduction page to conclusion 6 pages. So I'm not looking for, 10 to 12 pages of new information. I'm looking for, 5, 6, 7 pages of thesis, introduction, body of your paper, conclusion. Tell me what your paper is about and then support it with the literature. Then once you've done that, and when you're writing your conclusion, make sure you circle back around to your thesis statement. You want to circle back around and show how you've proven that thesis. And then at the end, you put in the original annotated bibliography, you put in the original literature review, and then you follow it up with your reference page so that everything is there and you are all set. So you can find this in, this drives me crazy. If you guys know a different way that I'm doing this, you can feel free to send me a message because I have such a hard time with Mac computers. So that goes over the literature review and the final. I was going to show you in the announcements. Here we go. Thesis statement. I put this in a few days ago. This just basically goes over your final paper. You have a thesis statement. You do not have a research question. So you do not ask a question and then answer it with the research. You start out with I, and you don't want to say I'm sorry. Don't say I in your paper. You're not writing this in first person. You are going to write research shows, and if you do write when you write your rough draft, I will comment on that and say change it all to the research, or this isn't this, you want to write this as a scholarly paper, something that is coming from the research. So everything should be, the river, research shows, according to the research. So just don't put your opinions, don't put don't put that in your paper. So here is a strong thesis statement. Rather than saying video games are very popular or parents nag their kids about too much homework, you're going to say video games are stealing time away from homework for many high school kids in our community. So this states it does state your opinion, but it's also already been researched. So you make a strong statement, then you use the research to back that up. You can Google this, you can look online. There's lots of different ways to boost up your thesis statement. But just make sure that you know as you start writing your paper, you are writing with a thesis statement and not a research paper with a research question. Discussions. Here, if somebody had asked where to find the general questions board. So when you log in, if you go straight to the discussions under course menu, discussions, you will find the general questions right here. And when you click on that, there is a thread that says sample assignments, and that's where you will find the assignments that I just went over. Okay, and last announcement, we are in week 5 now. If you have work from weeks 1, 2, and 3 that you have not submitted, it will not be graded at this point. So you are still able to turn in work from week 4, which was last week's worth. Per SNHU policy, you have 7 days to submit late work. So I will be accepting week 4 work until this Sunday at midnight, but work from weeks 1, 2, and 3 it will stay a 0. It will not be graded if you didn't submit it over the weekend. So today's I believe February 4th. So from today forward, whatever was already submitted will be graded, but as of today, anything from weeks 1, 2, and 3, I won't open and grade. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. Once we get into week 6 and rough drafts, I open every rough draft into a Word document, read it, line by line, make comments, suggestions, save it, and I send it back to you. That way, when you're looking through it, you know exactly what changes you need to make, and then you can make those changes for your final paper. So that takes a lot of time, and I can't go back through and grade 3 or 4 weeks of late work. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out and let me know. And I hope you have a great week.